I cheated on my husband one night before we were married. He forgave me at the time, but karma has come back around years later and bit me so hard. I'm so confused about what to do. Story 1. I need some frank advice about what I should do. It's all so messy and I don't know what's right or wrong anymore. My husband and I had a pretty rough patch just before we got married. We had been together for 8 years and he had basically lost interest in me and stopped having sex. I cheated with a random guy and we broke up. Awful move that I have always regretted, mostly because it was premeditated and not a in-the-moment thing. He forgave me though and admitted to neglecting our relationship during that time. After a few weeks we started speaking again and decided to wipe the slate clean. Things moved quickly and he proposed and we got married a short while later. That was a long time ago and we now have kids and a happy life. A few months ago, however, my husband's best friend made a new friend and introduced the guy to their group. By some karmic twist of fate, my husband's new friend was the guy I kissed all that time ago. I was so sick when I realized. I told my husband as soon as I knew, but at that stage he had already been integrated into the friend group. To say he was angry was an understatement. He was so hurt and heartbroken and completely lashed out at me, which I get. After a few weeks he spoke to me and said he didn't want to get a divorce over this, but he is deeply embarrassed and ashamed, as am I. I was so glad to hear that he didn't want to break up, and I told him I would do whatever he is comfortable with in terms of coming clean. He has decided that he is going to forget we had the conversation and move on as though it hasn't happened. The most painful part though is that he said if any of his friends ever find out he will pretend he has no clue of anything and leave me on the spot. I am so sad and worried that the future of our family now depends on this, and the thing is I know his friends already know. They haven't said anything because that would be rude, but I could tell something had shifted in their thinking towards me before I even realized about the guy. The air tenses when I come into the room, and a few of them have let things slip when they get drunk and they think they are being subtle. I've said this to my husband and his response was, oh well, if it's ever said out loud and leaving you. I'm so sick with worry I don't know what to do. It feels like my whole life is on a ticking time bomb for a mistake I made and worked through with my husband over a decade ago. I completely understand his position, but I am racked with guilt, shame and worry and feel so trapped by it all. And I can't help but feel that my husband is basing our kids' happiness on chance for the sake of his ego. I am willing to come out and admit my errors, but he is too embarrassed to let people know he married me when he knew I had cheated. I don't know who or what is right or wrong, and I have no idea what is the best thing to do for our family. I am a mess lately and struggling to take care of myself and my kids. But it was my behavior that got us here, so I can't help think I need to put my head down and get on with it. I need some honest advice and perspective from someone who isn't so close to the situation or so emotional. I am too afraid to speak to anyone else about it. Please help. Why should I do? Redditor's reactions. Redditor 1. I kinda understand your husband's feelings. I mean, it's one thing to be cheated and not have any involvement with your AP despite forgiving you. It's another where Hess now integrated into the friends group, knowing that every time he hangs out with his friends and Hess there, it will be a constant trigger for him, not to mention embarrassing. However, I do not agree with the ultimatum of leaving you if his friends bring it up. Redditor 2. Did you say kissed? Like that was everything? Obviously he never really got over it. Hess still emasculated and embarrassed. I think it might make sense to tell him that his friends already know and see what happens. Redditor 3. Yeah, this is not worked through. Worked through is that you could see them and no one gives a FCK. You can't live with the sword of Damocles over your head. So either he accepts that this happened and moves on, or you preemptively split. Story 2. I 22F cheated on my so 23M with my teacher 29M, and now I feel guilty and regret it. Before all of you judge me, which is understandable, please read me first. I'm in a long-distance relationship with my boyfriend of 4 years. He lives in another state like 8 hours away. We are both in college. Last semester I had this hot young new teacher that all my friends were talking about, but I didn't like him at first. But then, randomly, he started messaging me and we started talking a lot more about non-related school issues. Long story short, we ended up having sex several times. I even kinda developed feelings for him for a short while. He's the second guy I've ever been with since my boyfriend was the first one. I broke things up with my boyfriend for a minute, but he never knew the reason and he insisted he wanted to be with me, so I gave our relationship another shot after a few weeks. He really loves me. I wished I hadn't cheated on him. I now realize it was a mistake, but I was blinded by this other guy who now I find childish and ugly. It was definitely not worth it, and I don't know what was I thinking. That was like a year ago. My teacher since then has been trying to contact me again and have me come over his place, but I've been ignoring his calls and texts. I do not want to be with him again or anyone else by all means. I'm still with my boyfriend and things are pretty good, but sometimes it hurts me knowing how hurt would he be if he finds out what I did. Sometimes at night I can't stop thinking how much of a shitty person I am. Is this feeling ever gonna go away? Should I break things off with my boyfriend? I really don't want to, because I love him and I wouldn't cheat on him again in a million years with anyone, but if I tell him the truth, he's never gonna believe that. Little edit, again, this was a year ago. I have not talked to or been with anyone else, nor do I want to. TLDR, I cheated on my boyfriend of 4 years and now I'm deeply sorry about doing that, and the guilt trip is endless. He has no clue about it. Redditor's reactions. Redditor 1, that feeling won't go away. You sound like you do care for your BF and you know he deserves to be with someone who will actually treat him better. Break it off and be honest. Redditor 2, and what happens in a few months when you get bored and lonely again because you're in an LDR and you can't control yourself? You cheat on him again? You can't keep stringing this poor guy along, and you owe it to him and yourself to tell him what happened and take things from there. Redditor 3, please forgive me if I sound critical, but I truly do just want to share with you my frankest sentiments. The choice of keeping this relationship alive is no longer yours to decide. You broke his trust, whether he knows it or not. Trust and communication is truly the foundation of any relationship. If you love him, I'm sure you will understand this. You owe it to him once again, because you love him and you believe he deserves the best, to tell him. The power of forgiving or not is his, and his alone, not to be limited by your selfish desire to keep this a secret. Put yourself and the relationship at his mercy. That is the single decent thing you can do at this point.